It's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, of course, today is an important day. It's Remembrance Sunday. So I just wanted to make a little tribute to the people that sacrificed their lives. So I'm getting emotional. Sacrificed their lives so we could be free and vote reform, apparently. But anyway, never mind. Won't get political about it. But all I know is my dad, he did not lose his life in the war, fortunately. But he lost a lot of friends in there. He was a sailor. He was in the Royal Navy during the war. And, he is a hero in my eyes. He was a hero. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, but not only my dad, but so many other people that sacrificed. So I just wanted to make a tribute to that. But also, I think it's important to remember the white poppies as well. You know, they fought for peace, really, didn't they? They fought because they had to. But really, the idea was after that there would be no more wars like that. And, luckily, for lots of reasons, one of, being like the United Nations and a United Europe, etc., which, of course, is sort of a little bit teetering on the brink now since Brexit, unfortunately. And, of course, we've got the war in Ukraine, there's the war in Gaza. There are still wars, but not perhaps on that scale of that particular war. So we're hoping for peace as well. So not only sort of thanking everybody who did make a sacrifice in any way whatsoever, and just hoping that a war on that scale never has to happen again. But anyway. Now, I'm not wearing a poppy because I've been unable to get one because, of course, Spain did not take part in that war. For anyone who doesn't know, I live in Spain. Spain was having its own war at the time, wasn't it? It was going through a civil war and did not participate whatsoever in in World War II. Perhaps fortunately, because, of course, Spain was a fascist. Ended up being, I think Franco probably would have sided with the fascists. But anyway, we now have democracy in Spain, etc. But basically, there are no real even events to talk about the Second World War. So there are places where you can get poppies. But me being me and always last minute with everything, completely left it all too late to the last minute. Tried desperately to get one on Amazon, and of course, again, too late. The delivery date was next week sometime, end of next week sometime. So I'm sorry I'm not wearing a poppy, but anyway, that's just the way it is. So that's the first thing I want to say. I have got a little list, so I've got a little bit of waffle to go through. So before I start properly with the video. So as always, if you don't like the waffle, I will be making this video into two videos because, of course, I'm going to talk about two different subjects. I am going to talk in this video about the little boy, Gus Lamont, who's missing in Australia. So these are two Australian stories that I'm going to talk about this morning. But first of all, I'm going to be talking about a little development possibly in this case that we've been following of Dezi Freeman, the fugitive, who's on the run after, killing two policemen and trying to kill two others. A sovereign citizen, he went on the run and, of course, has been searching for him for quite a long time. I personally think he's around that area, deceased somewhere. He's probably deleted himself, which is very sad. But, Dezi, anyway, a lot of people support Dezi in his campaign against the state, but at the end of the day, he has killed two policemen who were just there to serve an arrest warrant. So, shouldn't have done that. Whichever way you look at it, shouldn't have done it. But I know a lot of people are sympathetic to Dezi's cause, whatever that is. Personally, I don't believe in sovereign citizenship. You need a state. What would you have a state where people like Dezi were telling you what to do? And just wouldn't work. It sounds great, self-governing and all that, but in reality it doesn't work, does it? So we will be talking about him first and development, and then we will be talking about little Gus. And what I find a very strange campaign by the Daily Mail. To me, they're very, very casting shade on the family, almost blatantly, on the grandma who was looking after him. We're going to look at that. So first of all, though, what do I want to talk about? Well, first of all, I'll say my thank yous. So thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. A very special thank you to my members, as always, the mainstay of my channel. Thank you for being members. And of course, I want to say thank you to anyone who's sent me Ko-fis or super stickers, etc. These are things that help to pay for my streaming costs, and I have Canva, which is to make thumbnails and videos, etc. And if I ever get away on location again, I'm still trying to get on location. It's difficult to get away at the moment, but I'm trying my best. I will be soon, hopefully. So I've got a special thank you to say someone to Knick-Knack, who bought me a Ko-fi just yesterday, I think it was. Thank you so much for the Ko-fi. And of course, Ko-fi is, there is no set amount. Anything from €3 for a Ko-fi. I appreciate everyone who's done that, bought me a Ko-fi. What else did I want to say? Oh, yes, I've got some members to give away on my other channel. Let's do that. So, if you're watching on the Vicky Marie Chats channel, this is not my primary channel, unfortunately. So I can't give, because YouTube gives you 10 memberships every month to give away, but I can't give them away on this channel. It's on my other channel. So I've got 10 gift memberships to send on there. I'm going to send those now. Send the first 5. Hell's Bells Helen, Sean the Sheep, Shay, the Great One Julio, and Mrs. Skeptical. So you've all been granted a free membership by virtue of YouTube, who allows me, as I say, 10 a month. So now I'm going to send the other 10. The other 5. So I've sent 5. Send the other 5. Unfortunately, I can't, so you can watch the members' lives every Thursday, but you will be on the Spanish channel rather than the Vicky Marie Chats channel. But you can still watch the members' lives or participate. So I'm sending the next 5. Let's see. Eva, Paula, Leonie, Blue and Sadie's mum, and Vicky. That's not me. That's another Vicky, although the name is spelt the same as mine. So there you go. Thank you for watching. I presume you must at least watch my videos to be awarded a membership. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to take my banner off. What else did I want to? I think that am I getting there? I think yeah, that's most of my waffle. Just have a little. So I'm on a black coffee this morning, but it has got a little pinch of whiskey in it. That's the Spanish way, because it's quite chilly here this morning in Spain. It's 13 degrees. And I took the doggies out for a walk. Oh, that was Well, you know what? It's too peoply out there again. Too many people, isn't there? Everywhere you go, I sort of dread it because you think, oh God, you're going to bump into people and they're going to get on your nerves. And sure enough, but I'm going to talk about that later because I'm going to talk about that when I talk about Gus's case. Anyway, the police were out in force as well. You know, every time, there's certainly no lack of police in Spain. Every time I step out the door, there's police everywhere. And they seem to be stopping people on the high street. And I thought, oh my God, because I didn't have my seatbelt on. Because I literally, where I take the dogs for a walk, is literally 5 minutes away from my house. So sometimes I'm a bit naughty. I popped to the supermarket on the way, got in the car, didn't put my seatbelt on, then got back in the car after I'd taken the dogs out, didn't put my seatbelt on because I was thinking, oh, it's just 5 minutes around the corner. Came round the corner and there's the police on the high street stopping everyone. I'm thinking, oh no, this is going to be a fine, you know. Anyway, they just waved me on. I must look, I don't know, I must look like I wasn't hiding anything. Just waved me on and stopped the car behind me. So don't know what the reason for that was. And but anyway, so I did not get a fine. And I know I'm naughty for not wearing a seatbelt, but I am a bit naughty like that. Only if I'm only travelling short distances, you know, don't move out of second gear really. So anyway, so I'm going to, hello, lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. I hope you're all well. It's a Sunday morning if you're watching this on the live stream or on the live, you know, when I edit this video, I will cut off the waffle. But if you're watching it on the live stream, it is the 9th of November. It is a Sunday. Remembrance Sunday. So hi, lovely lurkers. My lovely lurkers are the people that like to watch the lives but don't necessarily want to come into the chat. Hi to my lovely replay crew. Thank you for watching. And now I am going to come into the chat and say hello to people who are brave enough to join in the chat. So there's a lot of chatting been going on. Hi, Blue. Hope you're well. Oh, sorry. Hi, David. I missed you there. Hi, David. Hi, Blue. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Daniel. Happy Sunday to you. Yeah. What happened? You know, thought the war was stopped, but it obviously isn't. The wars aren't stopped, are they? Hi, Julie. Happy Sunday. Yeah. Hi, Darren. Hi, Heather. Yes, I am naughty. I am naughty with seatbelts. It's funny, isn't it? Do you know what? I think it's because of Jimmy Savile. Because you remember his advert, so clunk, click every trip and all that. I was fuming when they brought in the seatbelt laws because I just thought, I don't want to wear a seatbelt. I don't like it. I find it uncomfortable. I think it's because I'm short as well. You know, so when I put a seatbelt on, it sort of cuts right across my neck there. It's like, ugh. And I know they save lives. And if I go on a long trip, it's only because I'm literally going around the corner. And I know, Jimmy Savile told us, didn't he, that it didn't matter if you were only going around the corner, you could still end up going through the windscreen. But now I think, God, why have I got to take any notes of anything that Jimmy Savile said? So, yeah, I don't know. I've got this, if I know I'm going on a longer trip, I literally, as soon as I get in the car, I put it on and that's it. But sometimes I do, because I was stopping at the supermarket and just can't, it's terrible, isn't it? I just can't be bothered putting it on and taking it off again. Hope there's no police watching this video. But anyway, normally 99% of the time I do put my seatbelt on, but I have been fined before for not wearing it. Hi, Julie. Yeah, they always say that, don't they? That the police are collecting revenue for their Christmas party. I don't think that's true. But I know that's a rumour, isn't it, that they always say. But these were the policia locale, and they'd already stopped someone. And as I say, my heart sank, and I just thought, oh my God, I've got no seatbelt on. And I thought, this is a fine coming, it'd be €100 or whatever. Yeah, they just waved me on. Strange that, isn't it? And then they stopped the car behind me. So I don't know what that was about, but there's always police. There's police everywhere. So, oh dear, oh dear. So anyway, of course, later it'll be the Armistice Day. I'll be joining in the 1 minute silence with the UK. I'll be watching it on the British TV. But of course, it's 11 o'clock in the UK, which will be 12 o'clock here. So that's why I ended up doing this live a little bit earlier, perhaps. I would have probably done the live at 11, but I wanted to be able to do the minute silence. And last night, just another last bit of waffle before I get into this. I did watch that the thing that was on BBC One. Oh, and I did enjoy it. It was very emotional. Rod Stewart singing "I'm Sailing." That was one of my dad's favourite songs because he was a sailor, and he loved that song. So that made me cry. So I had a good cry, basically. Thinking about what people sacrificed, you do. And, I just wish that I did listen to a lot of my dad's stories about the war, but not enough, what you like when you're young, it's sort of, you don't really appreciate things so much. And now, I'd love to be able to talk to him about his experiences, etc. Having said that, he never liked talking about it. This is the other thing. People that actually participated in that war, they don't want to talk about it because it's just so horrible what they went through and what they saw other people go through. And some of those stories that the veterans told last night, they were heartrending, weren't they? So, I didn't like the royal family rubbish and the, God save the king. I'm not a royalist. I didn't like any of that. They fought for their country. They fought for their families. They didn't fight for the king, or queen or whoever. It was a king, wasn't it, at the time? But, I don't like all that kind of rubbish, but I thought it was very emotional. It was the music was nice. My dad would have loved the bands. He loved the bands, the brass bands and things like that. So, yeah, very emotional. It was lovely. Heather, Sam Ryder, yeah, he was good, lovely voice. Yeah, look, Heather, you've always look all these famous people that you've come into contact with. It's like, yeah, he's got a lovely voice, hasn't he? They all the people that sang on there were so nice, and it was lovely. It was nice. I can honestly say I did enjoy it. So, and it made me cry. I just cried all the way through. It doesn't take much, to be honest. But, I do feel a connection with it because I know, my dad was one of those sailors who went and, so anyway, he was fine. Obviously, he survived. He came home, but he wasn't intact mentally. And I'm realizing that now. I hadn't realised it before, but my dad, I think he had some sort of PTSD, because eventually he did have to have electric shock treatment. And, it's like, just didn't register with me when I was young, all that we went through and that. But, yeah, he definitely had some PTSD from the war. Oh. You didn't ask him to hug you, he just did it. You must be a huggable person, Heather. You must have that huggable look about you, like you must give off a hug vibe. It's lovely, that, isn't it? Though, yeah, he probably is a very nice person as well. He comes over, he seems to be a nice person. I always feel sorry for him because, of course, he should have won the Eurovision Song Contest, but Ukraine got the sort of sympathy vote, didn't they, because of the war, even though their song was rubbish. Who remembers their song? But, of course, they won it because of the situation. And for the 1 year that the UK actually had a decent song, they should have won. Poor Sam didn't win. So he'll always be remembered as the man who should have won the Eurovision Song Contest, won't he? But yeah. Yeah, a magnet. She's a magnet. Heather's a magnet. Okay, so let's get on with talking about these. Now, some very interesting. Now, especially about Gus Lamont, I think a very interesting thing that I know the Daily Mail are sensationalist. You know, most newspapers are, aren't they? At the end of the day, they're trying to get people to look at their newspaper. Nowadays, it's to click into their online stuff more than buy a paper, isn't it? And, you know, I know they're trying to do that, but they're being very sensationalist about this case and very down on the family. So we're going to talk about that next. First of all, we're going to talk about Dezi. I know Heather used like Sam Ryder, what was it, John Major? He was batting his eyelashes at you, wasn't he? You know, you are a magnet. You just are a magnet. So first of all, we're going to talk about Dezi Freeman. Let's put a little thing up in the corner. So this is the guy that has been on the run for really quite a long time now, hasn't he? Let's share the article that I'm going to read. Anyway, apparently, according to 7 News Australia, there were reports. Oh, I'm on the wrong. No, that's the wrong one. There were reports of a single gunshot in the area where he disappeared. Now, personally, I think Dezi is deceased. I think it's a similar situation that we had with Travis Decker, where he's roundabout. They just can't find his body because he's deceased. So apparently, according to this article, Victoria police are investigating a single gunshot heard in bushland after 2 officers were killed. So, yeah, 2 officers were killed and 2 officers were shot at. Apparently, the second officer that was shot at, one was in hospital, weren't they, for a while with serious injuries, but I think they're okay now. But the other one, just luckily for him, the gun jammed, it turns out. Anyway, experts have done specialised firearm testing in the hopes it will end the hunt for the accused killer. Police are investigating witness reports of a single gunshot fired near Dezi Freeman's property on the day he allegedly murdered 2 Victorian police officers. Investigators confirmed on Sunday they had conducted firearms tests in the area early this week as part of their ongoing investigation into the alleged shooting on August the 26th. So this man has been on the run since August the 26th. So we're now on the 9th of November. So if he is still alive, he's got to be getting help somewhere. Surely he could not survive all that time. Don't forget, there's been no sightings. There's been no forest cam, you know. And this, of course, is in Poripunka in Australia. I mean, it is a vast sort of area. He's supposed to have bushman skills, like survivalist skills. He's armed. So, yeah. But it's a long time, isn't it? And they've searched and they found nothing. So it's not as if they found a campsite or found anything. whatsoever. He's disappeared without a trace, just like Travis Decker did. And that's why I think this is a same case scenario, because there's been nothing whatsoever found. So the testing took place in the vicinity of Barrett Lane and Rayner Track due to reports of a single gunshot in that area around 11:45 a.m. on the day Freeman allegedly killed 2 police officers. So the area has since been searched by police, but no trace of him was found. Victoria Police said that investigators are hopeful that the firearms testing may assist the police with the ongoing search. Firearms tests are used to see how sound might have travelled through the terrain in an attempt to locate where the reported gunshot came from. So that's interesting, isn't it? So someone says they heard a single gunshot. I presume they're going to take that person, or I don't know how they're going to, they're going to make these tests and they'll try and judge exactly where the gunshot came from in the hope to pinpoint where possibly Dezi may be. He may have sadly, taken his own life. And if so, his body's there somewhere. But of course, it's, it literally is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Though surely if they took the cadaver dogs out there, I don't know. Anyway. So Detective Leading Senior Constable Neil Thompson and Senior Constable Vadim de Hotarts were killed and a third police officer seriously injured when Freeman, also known as Desmond Philby, opened fire. The officers were serving a warrant on Freeman at his semi-rural property in Porepunkah, 300 kilometres northeast of Melbourne. Freeman, 56 years old, allegedly attempted to kill a 4th police officer, pointing his gun at the officer and pulling the trigger. However, the firearm did not go off. So, bloody hell, that man, I hope he bought a lottery ticket the next day. I mean, God, just have a gun pointed at you, someone who's already shot 2 of your fellow police officers and seriously injured another one, and then he points the gun at you, but the gun doesn't go off. I think they'll be calling him lucky from now on, won't they? So these are the 2 guys that died. Vadim, he was a young guy, as you can see, is originally from the Netherlands, I think. And the leading senior constable, Neil Thompson, he was older. He'd been in the police force a longer time, probably not that far from retirement. And unfortunately, both these men were killed. So look, you can see the surrounding area. Gosh, we seem to be looking at a lot of remote areas, don't we, lately? All these remote areas. So difficult to search. We've got the remote area where Jack and Lily Sullivan went missing, the remote area where Gus Lamont went missing. That's probably the remotest, isn't it? There was the Travis Decker scenario. These just must be a nightmare for the police to search. And once somebody is deceased, it's harder to search, isn't it? Because they're not giving off heat, and I think it's harder then to search for a body, and other things have to come into play. Like Travis was eventually found by using a forensic psychologist and asking their opinion on where they thought that Travis, the direction he may have taken, etc. And that's what helped to find Travis. And although, finding him, it could not save neither him or the 3 girls, his 3 children that he inexplicably murdered, but at least it gave some peace of mind to Whitney, the girl's mother, who must have been wondering when he was going to come for her, and also his family, knowing where he was. It's a horrible ending, but at least it is an ending. At least it is, something to come to terms with. And Travis Decker's remains, not all of them have been found, but enough to give him a funeral. And that'd be important to his family, because he still was, as much as he did a heinous act, he was somebody's son at the end of the day, and he probably had other family. So, yeah, these searches are just a nightmare, aren't they? I mean, they can't give up on it. They're never going to give up on this search for Dezi, and they may have scaled it back and done those kind of things. They're never going to give up on, this is a man who killed 2 policemen. They're just never going to give up on trying to find him and try and hopefully bring him back to face justice. But personally, I don't think he is alive. I think he probably is in that vicinity somewhere. So Freeman has been on the run from police ever since the shootout, and despite extensive searches and hundreds of resources, no trace of him has been found. And the reason why I don't think he's alive and being helped by anyone is there's a massive reward out there, isn't there, for his for any information leading to catching him. And I think if that massive reward that was put up is not, isn't it $1 million or so? I mean, it's some ridiculous amount. What is let's have a look what the reward is. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it's huge. I'm sure if anybody had any information, unless they were just terrified, a reward of up to $1 million. Australian dollars. I mean, huge. Surely, if anybody knew anything, they would have come forward by now for $1 million. I don't know. So I do think he's probably deceased, but who knows? Police are keen to speak to anyone who may have heard this gunshot, including any... Now, this is the first time the police have mentioned this gunshot. Including any members of the public who may have been in the area at the time and believe they could be the person responsible. So they want to eliminate possibilities. I mean, there could have been someone out there shooting, hunting and shooting animals or whatever. So the police are now making this open plea because, if someone comes forward and says, oh, yeah, I was in the woods that day and, I don't know, I shot a deer or whatever wildlife are in those woods. That's important for the police to know, isn't it? The search for Desmond Freeman by Task Force Summit remains ongoing. $1 million reward has been offered for information, and the reward is the largest ever offered for an arrest in Victoria. And anyone who sees Dezi Freeman should phone 000 and not approach him. Yeah, because if he is out there, he is armed and dangerous. So, don't approach him. If you think you spot him anywhere, I don't think he'll be spotted. I think he'll be found. I think this really is a Travis Decker scenario. I mean, it took months, didn't it, for them to find Travis. They had to keep going back and searching again. I don't think they should extend the search for Dezi. I think they should just concentrate on that local area. I can't see that he'll have gone any further than that. Now, especially now, not been seen anyway. He's not been seen on CCTV. On nothing. There's nothing. There's no trace of him. So to me, I think he is there, but he is deceased, sadly, because it is sad. Dezi, it seems like he was a really nice guy years ago, but his paranoia and his mental health and all this sovereign citizenship just took over him, and I don't know, maybe the police were out to get him a little bit, but, you know, I don't know, if you go around saying bad things about the police, I suppose in the end, maybe they are going to come for you. I don't know what this search warrant that they were trying to execute and, of course, trying to arrest him, supposedly is SEX thing that people say it was a historic SEX crime against an ex-girlfriend, but she was under the age of 16, I think. So I don't know the full details of it, and maybe it was like a trumped up thing to just sort of try and harass him, but he still shouldn't have shot the police. I mean, you shouldn't have shot. You don't shoot people, do you? You shouldn't have done it. But anyway, he did it. And wherever Dezi is in this world, I hope he's, I don't know. I hope he is okay. I hope he gets brought back for justice in a different way, But if he did take his own life, of course, he will be facing his own justice in the next world. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk to you about. So let me take that down. So as I say, we'll be splitting this video and releasing it as 2 videos about each separate case. So if just to let you know that if you've already watched it, you might not want to watch it again when it comes out. But now we're going to talk about little Gus. And we've talked about him a lot, haven't we? This case, just like the Jack and Lily Sullivan case, absolute mystery what has happened to this boy. He's like got that little angelic face and the curly blonde hair, 4 years old. Now, if we thought it looked remote where Dezi went missing from, where little Gus went missing from is like a sheep shearing station with a homestead type place in Yunta in Australia. It is, I mean, we've seen quite a few videos about it. You literally could not get more remote, I think, than this sheep shearing station. Now, what I was saying earlier, so I took the dogs out this morning, and it was quite chilly. It's windy. As I say, the temperature's climbing up a little bit now. It's 14 degrees now. Now the sun was shining, but it's quite chilly. There was like a wind chill factor. Anyway, I took them out. So as I pulled up to where I wanted to take them for a WALK, I'm just saying it like that because if they hear me say it, they might think they're going for another one. There was a woman walking up with 2 dogs on leads. So I thought, right, I'll wait for her to go past before I get my dogs out of the car because, don't want a bark fest and, So I waited for her to go past. She carried on up the way. I get my dogs out. What does she do? She stops. She turns around and starts coming back. I'm like, oh my God. And there's a million different ways you can go. You've got like a main road there, but then there's like, you can just cross over it's like a big open space, but it's next to the main road. She could have gone a million other ways, but no, she turned around and started walking back up towards me. So I'm thinking, oh my God. So I actually put them back in the car because we hadn't gone far from the car and just thought, oh, just let her go past. And, then I'll get them out again. So she went past, took her ages. She's dawdling. As you can see. Anyway, never mind. I just don't understand people because to me, if I'm out with my dogs and I see somebody, I go completely the other way. Like if you can go the other way, of course, sometimes you can't, but in this particular case you can. I go and I was actually thinking, I thought, God, how I was thinking I wouldn't like to live on somewhere as remote as Gus's family live, but there's part of me that thinks, God, it must be brilliant if you can just come out of your house. You don't have to worry about people. You know, it's just too peoply out there always, isn't it? People always spoil your dog walk. And, you know, people who don't respect that dog walking etiquette of, you know, not walking straight, aiming for somebody. Anyway, so that was fine, and I walked them around a little bit, and it was all fine. They were enjoying it. Next minute, 2 dogs come running over, only little dogs. But the thing is, I mean, they were probably lovely little dogs, but it's like this expanse, and there's a main road at the side of it with cars whizzing past. And these dogs are completely off the lead with this silly woman walking behind them, like miles behind them, because they've seen my dogs and made a beeline for my dogs. Now, luckily for them, my dogs are not aggressive. I mean, they like to have a little bark and that, but they wouldn't attack another dog. But she didn't know that, did she? She didn't know that. And I just thought, and of course, she wasn't even calling them back. So I went, no, like that, because I didn't want them to come up to my dogs because, well, you know, I don't know, maybe my dogs would have attacked them. And I'm saying to this woman, can you put them on? I said it in English and Spanish. Don't think you should put them on the lead. In the meantime, there's cars whizzing past on the main road. So it would have only took one of these dogs to get a little. Now, I do let my dogs off a lead if we're at the campo or somewhere where it's safe to let them off the lead. But there's no way I would let my dogs off the lead next to the main road. Anyway, she just ignored me, this woman. I spoke to her in Spanish and English. Then the dogs started running over to some other dogs that were in the dog park. I mean, there's a dog park there that's all enclosed, and there was a couple of big dogs in there. So these 2 little dogs go running off and start barking at these big dogs. Anyway, the big dogs couldn't get at them because they were contained in the dog park. But it made me think, and I thought, God, you know, I've always thought I wouldn't like to live somewhere that remote. But you know what? It's looking more and more attractive to me every day. Yeah, it'd be no people, you know, no people. Let your dogs out, go out with your dogs, and you're not going to bump into other idiots with their dogs. No cars. So it is starting to feel more and more attractive to me all the time. But anyway, not really. I think it is a little bit too remote for me. Much as it'd been nice to, you know, it'd be nice to live somewhere a little bit more remote, probably. But there are things, you know, where I live, it's noisy because I live on a busy street with lots of Spanish people, and it's in a pueblo. So as you know, if you're a regular viewer, there's always bangers going off for something or some fiesta going on. But then it makes me feel, you know, you do feel safe, like, you know, because you don't, I think someone would be really hard pushed to break into my house without somebody noticing, because there's always somebody out there. And, you know, so there's that as well. Whereas I think if you're in a very remote place, you would feel like a little bit sort of isolated, wouldn't you? Anyway. Well, that's where they live. They live on a very remote place, don't they? Now, let's see if I can... if I show you this, it'll give you an idea, if you don't know already, of the sort of area where they live. So, this guy, apparently Jason O'Connell, searched the property with Gus's father. Now, Gus's father, Josh. Now, the thing about this case as well is it's quite an unusual family dynamic, isn't it? Because Gus's father does not live at the homestead with Gus's mum and Gus's brother. So he's got a little brother who's younger than him. Gus is only 4. and they live on this home. The mother and his sibling live on the homestead with the two grandmas, because Gus has two grandmas, because one of his grandmas had a transition, became a woman quite a long time ago, but still seems to live with their wife, from when they were a man. So, and apparently, if you believe what the media says, Josh did live there. Gus's father did live there at one point, but he didn't get on with this grandma. And so he's doing up another house 2 hours away that he's getting ready to presumably move the families in. So they haven't split up, apparently. Gus's mum and dad are still together, but Gus's dad had moved out because of problems in getting on with Gus's GMA. Supposedly, again, I'm just reporting what the Daily Mail says, and I know the Daily Mail can't always be relied on to speak the truth. But they seem to have really fastened on the Daily Mail. They're really casting shade on this GMA. And I'm surprised they're doing that so openly. So, of course, one of their reporters went there. We're going to have a look at that. Went there last week or something, uninvited. And this grandma came out with a shotgun, a pump action shotgun that she said she was going to kill a snake that was on the porch, and really shouted at this reporter and told them to get away, get out, very aggressively, very threateningly, very scary looking person as well, because very muscly, even though, obviously he's transitioned to a woman, but very sort of, a sheep shearer, a farmer, quite intimidating person, I would say. So let's have a look. So this was Josie Murray, the grandma, with, quite scary, with the gun and the bullets in the other hand, and she insists she was only going to shoot a snake. It was just coincidence that the reporter was there. I don't believe that. I think they were definitely, they've probably been pushed. Their grandson's missing, as far as we know. The police are saying they think that Gus wandered off. Now, the big thing that the Daily Mail are saying now, and I'm surprised that they're questioning, when was Gus actually seen by anyone besides the family? And they are saying that Gus may have been missing for 6 months. So, as far as this, as far as we're concerned, and as far as because it was the GMA that was looking after Gus and his brother. Gus's mum and the other GMA were supposedly at the actual sheep shearing station. But that seems odd to me, because this was a Saturday. Now, I know I'm sure farmers don't have hours like, 9 till 5, Monday to Friday, but this was a Saturday at 6:30 in the evening. Would they be likely to be shearing sheep on a Saturday at 6:30 in the evening? I don't know. So it's sort of really strange, and I do feel this story's getting stranger. So now the Daily Mail is saying, when was Gus last seen by anyone who's not a member of the family? Because it's all apparently that photo that's been brandished around of Gus was taken 6 months before, when he was starting school or something to do with school. We're going to look at what now I have to throw out a caveat here. This is what the Daily Mail is saying. Just seems strange to me that they're saying this openly without being worried about being sued, for casting aspersions, or just seems odd, doesn't it? So, up a remote gravel track near the dusty outback town of Billali North in South Australia is a little house that time forgot. Now, don't forget, they went to Josh's house. So their title of this story is Missing Outback Boy's Transgender Grandmother Greeted the Mail Reporter with a pump-action shotgun. As we reveal, little Gus could have gone missing 6 months ago. Now that's quite a sort of leading title, isn't it? Normally if they don't know that somebody is guilty of something, fancy saying that. This was yesterday. It was updated and published. So they're talking about Josh's house here. They're talking about the father's house. And they went there, didn't they, before they went to Gus's house. The 2-bedroom bungalow with its cracked walls and sun-baked tin roof sits on a 10-acre plot which is being grazed by 4 moth-eaten sheep. Alongside its driveway, you'll find half a dozen cars in various states of decay. On the veranda is a child's bicycle with stabilizers on the back wheels. The place appears to have been abandoned some time ago. Visitors who dare approach the front door can glimpse the deserted and Spartan interior. In the kitchen, the doors on a fridge freezer are ajar. On the wall is a calendar someone has filled with daily appointments until March, but they haven't touched it since. So they're making a thing of it, March. There's been... Now, Gus's dad, Josh, apparently was staying at the sheep station just before Gus went missing. But having said that, when the actual day Gus went missing, Josh was in that house. So there's a lot. I think there's a lot we don't know here, isn't there? This is the home of Gus Lamont, a sometime rock musician whose band, the Cut Snakes, played the pubs and bars of South Australia before disbanding during COVID. Property records show he bought it for $81,000 Australian dollars, about £40,000, in March 2021, around the time his first son, a blonde-haired boy named Gus, was born. That was now a lifetime away, for in the evening of Saturday, September the 27th, police called on Josh to say that Gus had been reported missing from Oak Park Station, an outback sheep farm roughly 2 hours drive north. We'll listen to that in a minute, that podcast. Oh, bless him. When the Daily Mail knocked on the family's door last week to gently ask whether they had any further details to share, we got a hostile welcome from Gus's transgender grandmother, Josie Murray, who was brandishing a pump-action shotgun. The child had been living there with his mother, Lamont's girlfriend Jessica Murray, and grandparents Josie and Shannon. Gus had apparently last been seen around 5 p.m. playing on a mound of red dirt that he used as a sand pit. By the time he was called in for dinner, half an hour later, he'd vanished and no one has seen him since. A huge search involving dozens of police officers, soldiers, a small army of volunteers and an Aboriginal tracker was quickly mounted. But despite scouring tens of thousands of acres, using drones and helicopters, and last week draining a small lake beside the property, it came to naught. The closest anyone has come to finding anything resembling a clue came in the early days of the search when a single footprint was found in the dust. I mean, that's weird in itself. 500 yards from where he was last seen. In the meantime, what began as a simple missing persons case has become a major news event, drawing a collection of news reporters, TV crews, and TikTok true crime obsessives. Now you see they're straight in there criticising TikTok, but it was them who turned up at the door of both. Just, do you know what? I'll give up. Various outlandish explanations for Gus's disappearance, involving everything from wild animals to disused mine shafts, have been investigated and discounted. And as the case enters its 7th week, police seem to be no nearer to working out what has become of the missing child. In fact, there seem to be more unanswered questions now than there were when he first vanished. All this brings us back to Josh Lamont's house and the calendar hanging on the wall. So one of the last appointments it lists for March was term starts, presumably marking the introduction days for Gus at a local nursery school, where he was due to start full-time in January. Importantly, that trial day was the occasion when the official police photo of Gus in a grey and blue Peppa Pig t-shirt, that's the photo that's up in the corner, appears to have been taken. And as far as we can establish, that nursery school visit also represents the last time anyone outside of the child's immediate family can remember seeing him. So what do you think of that? So has he not been seen? Hi, Claire. Has he not been seen for all that time by anybody outside the family? You know, well, and you know, Blue, we don't know when Gus's dad last saw Gus. He was staying there for a while before he went missing. And yeah, Claire, why leave a 4-year-old outside if there's snakes on the porch or whatever? You just wouldn't. There's something strange in this case. It's hard to. I think if he wandered off, he would have been found by now, because that little boy won't have gone far. Again, how far do they think he could have gone? You know, unless he was scared, why would he run off? Why would he run off at all? So, yeah, I'd not even thought of that before, because that's the first time that's been said, is when was the last time that Gus was seen by anyone other than the family? You know, was it all that time ago in March when he went to that nursery? They've not been seen by anybody else since then. Now, I'm sure the police will have looked into that. But surely he's got to have been seen by somebody else since then. In 6 months, surely they've took him into town, or I don't know. Although this, it's really, now the Mail are saying this openly. So what I'm saying is, whether you like the Daily Mail or you don't, them bringing this up openly, to me, feels like they're leaving themselves open to be sued or whatever, really, aren't they? Because they are casting shade on this family. It's just, so they're doing that, but they don't seem to be bothered that they're doing that. Strange, isn't it? So the Daily Mail has visited almost every property in Yunta, the nearest town to Oak Park Station, populated by only 60 people. While many residents knew the Murray family and were aware that Jessica had 2 children, Gus has a younger brother named Ronnie, no one could recall catching a glimpse of the boy since he was a baby. Neighbours in Bellally North said similar. Meanwhile, in Jamestown, where the nearest pub to Bellally North is located, a bar worker said that while Josh Lamont is a fairly regular customer, he hadn't seen Gus since 2024. Oh my God. Put another way, the missing boy seems to have barely left his home in the 6 months leading up to the day he vanished. The only people who had seen him alive during that period were the ones who then reported him missing. A casual observer might find this peculiar, but in the Australian outback, geography dictates that families can live very secluded lives. Oak Park Station is a case in point, spanning some 150,000 acres of scrubland and desert, an area roughly the size of the former county of Middlesex. God. It is 30 miles from the nearest major road. Getting from the house where the Murrays lived to town takes an hour. God, you'd have to get your provisions in, wouldn't you? I wonder if the supermarkets do deliveries. You'd have to get loads of provisions in, wouldn't you? What if you just suddenly ran out of milk or whatever? You then find yourself in Yunta, but it's more a collection of houses than a town and consists of 2 petrol stations, 1 pub, a post office and a police station. The closest medium-sized grocery store is in Peterborough, another hour away. Yeah, I think, even though it would be nice to not bump into people like I did this morning, that's too remote for me, I think. So the Murray family have been largely silent since Gus vanished until a few days ago. Their only detailed public comments had come via a 150-word statement issued by Bill Harbison, a family friend, 3 days after the boy went missing. We're devastated by the disappearance of our beloved Gus on Saturday afternoon, it read. We're struggling to comprehend what has happened. We miss him more than words could express. So since then, there have been no appeals, nothing from the family. Which, everybody's different. People deal with things different ways. They're obviously a very private family. So there's been no update from the family. And when the Daily Mail knocked on their door last week to only gently ask whether they had any further details to share, we got a hostile welcome from Josie Murray. In fact, she was brandishing a pump-action shotgun. Who are you? Get out. You are trespassing. Get out. Get out, she yelled. Are you deaf? Get out. And when our reporter attempted to apologise, she was told to shut your face and get out. I mean, it is an overreaction, don't you think? But of course, I don't know how it feels to be them worrying about what's happened to Gus, but just seems to me a very aggressive reaction, unnecessary. All you have to say is, look, just go, you've been told. You can be firm without being aggressive, and brandishing a shotgun, it just... So the encounter left, the Mail is saying, the encounter left our reporter shaken, but police later sought to portray the incident as a misunderstanding. This is the police. They said Josie wasn't using the gun to threaten her visitor, but she was carrying it because she'd seen a snake on their porch. I just don't think you would kill a snake with a shotgun, would you? There's another child in that house as well. Surely, wouldn't... I don't know. Wouldn't you hit it with a shovel or something if you had to do anything, or just scare it away? I know in Australia they've got venomous snakes, haven't they? They've got a lot of dangerous animals there, but and insects and things. I just don't know. I mean, we have snakes here in Spain, but they're not poisonous snakes. They grow massive, though. I've seen some massive snakes at the camp. I saw one crossing the road once. It was like, why does a snake cross the road? This bloody massive snake, weaving its way across the road in front of me. Obviously, I slowed down. I didn't run over it, but it got to the other side. It did get to the other side because it's only a narrow little sort of country road. I don't think that bit of overkill to get a pump action shotgun to kill a snake. Anyway, according to the police, it was fine. Local Deputy Police Commissioner Linda Williams insisted there was no intent for the person having that firearm at the time to be threatening. So that's what the police said. What do you think? Let me know what you think in chat. So here's the area that he's supposed to have. No, that boy hasn't gone and run round there, and he just hasn't. It's just not true. So that explanation, according to the Daily Mail, raised several questions. Firstly, apparently, snakes are protected in South Australia. Didn't that make it illegal for Murray to shoot one? Secondly, are pump-action shotguns an appropriate tool for dispatching a reptile at close range? To me, that's dangerous, isn't it? And thirdly, if dangerous snakes really are in the habit of taking up residence on the porch, why did the family allow their 4-year-old child to play out unsupervised on the day he vanished? So the police have yet to address. Do you feel like the police know? So they're trying to, maybe they're trying to placate. Maybe they suspect the family in something. They're just trying not to rock the boat. I don't know. Anyway, the police have yet to address any of these points, just as they're refusing to comment on the question of when Gus was last seen by anyone outside his immediate family. I do think that, if they've only got proof of him being seen back in March. What we do know for sure is that Josie cuts an unorthodox figure in this God-fearing community where social attitudes hark back to the era of Crocodile Dundee, for she happens to be a transgender woman. Born Robert Murray, Josie is actually Jess's biological father, and Josie's wife Shannon is Jess's biological mother. So after Robert transitioned to be Josie, his wife stayed with him. So there must be some love there. Locals say Josie transitioned in 2015, around the time Shannon's father Vincent, a Second World War hero who'd ran the ranch for several decades, died. People were obviously a bit shocked, one told the Daily Mail, but over time they've come to terms with it. And for the most part, people have come round to the view of live and let live, which is how it should be, of course. The family have since led largely unremarkable lives. However, locals say the years since Gus's birth brought conflict between the generations. Specifically, friends of Josh say he had spent extended periods of time at Oak Park Station, but moved out a couple of years ago due to a personality clash with Josie. He and Jess have since enjoyed a complex love life, described by one acquaintance as a sort of commuter relationship where they remain a couple but largely live in different homes. Although Josh tolerated his children living on the remote farm where they were infants, when they were infants. He doesn't think it's safe for kids to be out there, a friend said, and he was planning to move Jess and the boys into his home in Belleley North later this year, and that would have reduced the amount of time the little boy spent being ferried to and from school. On September the 27th, the night Gus vanished, Josh was found asleep in his home by police. It's unclear why Jess had not phoned to tell him their child was missing, but analysis of his movements that day are believed to have ruled out any involvement in the disappearance. He has since visited the Oak Park station to assist with the search, and he's now believed to be living with family members in the suburbs of Adelaide. And meanwhile, the known facts surrounding the case are as follows. At 5:30, Shannon had realised Gus was missing. Shannon or Josie? I thought it was Josie who realised that Gus was missing. I thought Josie was looking after the kids, not Shannon. Anyway, they never seem to get the story straight. And with the sun starting to sink, the family spent the next 3 hours frantically searching their rambling homestead. After darkness fell at 8:30 p.m, they called the police. A major search began that night, involving helicopters, drones and infrared cameras. The next day and for most of that week, convoys of trucks and trail bikes brought search teams to the farm. Teams of divers explored the water tanks, ponds, reservoirs. But the dusty footprint found after 3 days is the nearest anyone has come to locating Gus, with police saying it showed a very similar boot pattern to the pair he'd been wearing. And he was also wearing a blue long-sleeve Minions t-shirt and a grey sun hat, apparently. But an Aboriginal tracker concluded that it could have been there for a week before the night Gus went missing. And there's no other footprints, and the trail went cold. So, yeah, the last sort of search thing they did was they drained the dam, found nothing. Police have discounted most of the conspiracy theories, particularly those involving animals. Apparently there are very few dingoes in that area because farmers shoot them on site. And also the region is protected by a 1,200-mile dog fence to protect livestock. Crocodiles are not found. Well, it won't be a crocodile, will it, in the middle of that area? Gus is too big to been taken by an eagle, and if he had been attacked by a wild pig, searchers would have discovered evidence of a bloody struggle. And the topography makes it almost impossible that a stranger could have abducted him. The nearest major road is the Barrier Highway, which takes long-distance truckers to New South Wales. But to reach it, Gus would have had to walk 30 miles. And if he had simply wandered off and perished, his remains should have been found by now. So some 6 weeks after the little boy with curly blonde hair went missing, I don't like the way this great Australian soap opera, have some respect, it's not a soap opera, and every passing day seems to bring more questions. Now there's this podcast, we will listen to it. I haven't got time to listen to it today, but we will listen to it at some point. I know, crocodiles, Heather, for goodness sake, as if it could be a crocodile. Just like, anyway, never mind. But the crocodiles have got to be in water, haven't they? In a river. There is no river, is there? It was a dam, and anyway, it's not. There's no way he's been taken by a crocodile. Having said that, I don't know what's happened to him, but It's a total mystery, isn't it? It's very similar to the Jack and Lily mystery, Jack and Lily Sullivan. You know, when children disappear without a trace or one boot print. It's funny that there's a boot print in their case as well. They disappeared before Gus. There won't be any crocodile. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I agree, David. It makes you wonder, are the police... surely the Daily Mail aren't going to be, saying things like that unless they feel that the police don't mind them saying it. I mean, they're practically accusing Josie of knowing something about it, aren't they? There are a lot of red flags in this case. There definitely are. In fact, where's my... I want to put my thing up on red flags, put some red flags up. There are a lot of red flags in this case. Don't know, but until they said that, I hadn't even considered, that this little man hadn't been seen since March. Gosh. But now the police will know if anybody has come forward, won't they, and said that he was seen before that. They definitely, I'm sure, that'll be what the police will have investigated first of all, because it won't just take, if you say that you saw someone, your child went missing yesterday, that the first thing the police surely will want to know is, who else saw this? But when was the last time anyone else? When was the last time anybody else saw Gus? Was it in March? 6 months earlier. He'd not been seen by anybody but his own family then. I mean, when did his dad last see him, I wonder? Heather, I was just saying that was one of the things that people were talking about, that could have been a crocodile, but, just it's not likely, is it? In fact, I think it's impossible it could have been a crocodile. I think it's possible it could have been a dingo, or it's possible it could have been a wild boar or an eagle, but unlikely. Possible, but unlikely. I think if an eagle would have picked him up, even, they're saying that he's too big for an eagle to pick him up, but let's suppose his hat would have fallen off, surely, or there would be, or if some wild animal would have took him, surely there'd be some signs of a struggle, because even a little boy like that, he's not going to just let a wild animal take him off. He's going to put up some sort of a fight, isn't he? Unless he sadly sort of maybe got overcome by exhaustion and that, and then it would be easy to take away, I suppose, if he had no... Hi, Angel. Yeah. So it's getting more and more mysterious every day, and starting from the beginning, when you want to believe the family, don't you? Of course, you'd never like to think there's anything suspicious. But this case, like the Jack and Lily case, does get more and more suspicious every day. You think, why has Gus not been found yet? If he literally did run off, which I don't believe for a minute that he did, why would he run off? He'd be scared to run off. But let's suppose he did, how could he have got far? Just impossible, in my opinion. But then, they're going to be, when was he actually last seen? I'd like to know when his dad last saw him. And of course, his mum as well, she's been very quiet. She hasn't said when she last saw him. Or not that we know. I mean, obviously, she'll have told the police, But this has really made me think, like, if the last time he was actually seen by anybody else was all those months before. Just makes you think, oh God, you know, could have disappeared ages ago. You know, if he's not been seen by anybody else. Oh, this poor little one is so sad. So sad. So very, very sad. You know, it's difficult to hold out hope for him, isn't it? Bless him. Anyway, hopefully, before long, something will transpire. We'll keep watching this case, of course, as soon as I have if I get any information, you know, I'll be straight on to talk about it. We're not letting this case go. And the same with the case of Dezi, if anything comes up. I'll be on to talk about it. But for now, poor little boy. I'll be praying for him. I'm going to make a nice roast dinner today, I think, because it's chilly and feel like now I could eat a roast, you know, for all the months over. You know, it's only just gone a little bit chillier here in Spain. It's 15 degrees now, so but that's quite a nice temperature. Yeah, I'm going to cook a roast dinner. And I'll be back if there's any more information. But listen, thank you so much for caring about this boy. And of course, what happens to Dezi? You know, Dezi is a killer. You know, he's a double cop killer. But there is a part of me, I think Dezi has got some mental health issues. You know, and I wouldn't like to think that he is deceased, but I do think he is deceased. So that's very sad for his family, etc. But that's how it feels. But anyway, yeah, going back to the sacrifices, I'll be watching the Armistice Day parade, etc. I'll definitely be watching that. And till I see you all again, don't forget to like and subscribe, please. I'll see you very soon in the next video. And let me put my banner up. Until I see you again, may your God go with you. Thank you. Have a good day, y'all.